because traditional behaviorism is based on a level system. Whether it's all about points and progressing through levels and tokens, and we just don't believe that that actually causes change with our population of students. So one of the first focuses of our model is something that we call trusted care. And trusted care is represented by the sun, because much like the sun, it rises every single day no matter what. And trusted care represents the physical regulation of our students. You don't have to think a whole lot about it. It rises every single day no matter what the behavior is of our student. So they could be telling us to F off and to swear and throw a chair at us and all these kind of behavioral things that are really troubling, but it actually doesn't matter, because as a human being we feel like you deserve to be taken care of physically. And to us those are trusted care issues. So you still get to eat on time. You still get first aid and shelter and warmth. If you fall down chasing a dog and you scrape up your knee, we still want to take extra care of you, because we feel like even though you might be having struggles behaviorally, we still feel like you deserve trusted care. Some of our students with their backgrounds really struggle to know if they're going to receive trusted care on a daily basis. Some of our students have been in orphanages or in foster homes where they feel like, if I don't fend for myself and take care of myself, then I'm not going to have my needs met. I have to survive and do it on my own. But most of our kids actually respond to trusted care pretty well. They come from really good homes, whether they be adoptive homes or their biological family, and they just know that, you know what, my needs are going to be taken care of. But some of our kids do struggle with it. But we have trusted care a big focus in our model, because without it, we don't feel like we can make any emotional headway until our students know that there's going to be physical regulation first. So physical regulation, that's trusted care. Trusted control then is the emotional regulation of our students. And that's represented by the earth, because much like the earth, it's pretty stable and it's soothing and it's regulating. You don't have to think a whole lot about it when you walk on the earth. It just takes care of you. And that's really what we want our students to know that they can have with trusted control. And we provide this trusted control, or this emotional regulation, through three ways: through their peers, through staff, and through their parents. So with the peers, we all know that because they're teenagers, they value their peers and their friends often more than their family during this time of life. And we can fight against that and try to pretend that's not the case all we want, but the reality is teenagers really value their peers. So what we do here at Calo is we try to leverage the best parts of that. So there are some approaches out there, again, that are not just behavioral, but actually have what's called a positive peer culture, which is it's all about the peers regulating each other. We only need one staff for 20 kids because, you know what, we'll just have natural leaders emerge. We don't really believe in that. But there's our piece that we really believe that the peers can handle with each other, which is to provide some supports, some gentle and healthy accountability. So one example of this would be a student who maybe wants to refuse to do his stewardships in the morning. Generally, a coach in that situation would pull that student aside and try to coach and try to help and support that student to make a better choice and to do their stewardships. But sometimes the peers will say, hey, you know, it feels kind of crummy that I'm over here vacuuming and you're refusing to dust, or you're refusing to wash the windows. You know, you exist within a community here at Calo, just like you do at home within a family. And we need you to kind of step up and help out. And sometimes that student may still refuse. But it's through that repetitive relational experience that Bruce Perry talks about that change can happen. So that student then needs to have multiple experiences like that, where there's peers saying, hey, come on, let's get this together, let's work together, let's try to be a team. And of course that's a metaphor for their family, our students' family, that, you know what, no wonder my parents would get frustrated with me at home, because I would just say no and let them do everything. But I really do exist within a community. No matter where I'm at in my life, I need to participate in that community. So that's one example of emotional regulation with our peers. With our staff, of course, there's a number of ways that we try to provide the trusted control. One of them is just tattooed on our walls in our milieu, which is connection, break, repair. And that of course is the cycle of a healthy relationship. That our students have connection, but then they have breaks, because all relationships have breaks, but then they have repair. And it's surprising to some of our students because they think that if there's a break, that it must be an unhealthy relationship. But actually, we feel like the best relationships have breaks, but they also have repair, where a lot of our students aren't real good at repair, because we feel like at the core, some of them struggle with a lot of self-worth issues. They don't really feel like they're very worthy. And therefore, if I don't feel worthy, how do I initiate repair? How do I take accountability? How do I truly apologize? Because I don't even know where I went wrong. And so, anyway, that's one example. One of the other real core pieces of trusted control for our model is something that's from the work of Daniel Hughes, which is PACE. PACE speaks to the environment that we want here in our milieu, and it stands for being playful, being accepting, using curiosity, and having empathy. And so again, that's the model that we would actually invite our parents to have in their home as well, that not just a behavioral approach, but actually a PACE approach. Try to be playful, try to have acceptance, not just acceptance of the behavior. Actually, you don't want the behavior, you want to accept your child and separate the behavior. Too often as parents we say, you know, Johnny, you're driving me crazy. But the truth is, Johnny, that behavior is really difficult for me. Will you come be close to me, because that behavior is really hard for me right now? And actually just try to separate the behavior in the child and accept the child, but not the behavior. Curiosity is often, in traditional behaviorism, confused with confrontation. That most approaches are about confrontation. Let's blow you up, let's give you this insight, and hopefully you can make change from it. And there's a place to confront, but for us it's only after we've exhausted curiosity, because curiosity looks and feels very different. Curiosity is about going to the side of the student, putting our arm around them, explaining that we're actually perplexed by some of the behavior, or we want to step inside that student to understand the behavior better and not feel like we're standing in front of them, raising our voice, what's wrong with you, how could you do this, which is the traditional confrontational approach. Then overarching it all really needs to be some empathy, or what we say here at Calo, having a heart of peace. Because without a heart of peace, it's very difficult to intervene with our students in a healthy way. We just go through the motions, we focus on behaviors, we really don't get to the core very well unless our heart is truly motivated to do the right thing for the right reasons. And so one of our trainings with our staff, and we invite this with our parents too, is that they read the book, The Anatomy of Peace, which really speaks to you either have a heart of war or you have a heart of peace when you're intervening. And if you have a heart of war, you see that person as an object. And if you have a heart of peace, you see them as a person with unique feelings and experiences, and them behaving certain ways for a reason. And actually that they're doing their best, not trying hard enough, but they're doing their best. So that's PACE. That's a huge piece to our milieu culture here at Calo. And then what we ask with our parents is that, you know, most of our parents are actually really skilled. They actually have good homes. They actually are intervening and disciplining in a very positive way at home. So we actually don't want to eliminate that. We actually just want to take the very good things that they're doing at home and just add to it. See if we can't add some of these nuggets that can help them be more successful at home. As you can imagine, trusted control is a huge focus of a student's program here. It starts from day one and it doesn't end until the day they leave, because we're trying to help them regulate. So much like trusted care, we say, trust us, we're going to physically take care of you. With trusted control, we say, trust us, we're going to emotionally take care of you. Eventually, we want our students to have trust of self, which is where we say to them, trust yourself to take care of yourself. You don't need everyone else doing it. You can actually start to do this on your own. You've learned through lots of trusted control that you can actually do this. So trust of self is represented by the water, because much like the water, we want to be fluid and flexible and adaptable to change. So I use the example all the time of if we go out to our lake and we throw a rock in the water, there's a big disturbance, there's a splash, you know immediately that there is something that hit the water because it's observable. And our students are kind of like that. They don't like change for the most part. They really have a big disturbance. But trust of self is where you can actually bounce back and have some resiliency, because you know what? That rock hit the water, but I can actually be okay again. And just like the water, with this homeostasis, this ability to balance out and have an equilibrium, our students, we believe that they can get to that same place of change is tough for me in my life, I don't like it, but I can bounce back and I can be okay. And that's when we really have some signs that our students are doing quite well. One example of how we really see trust to self is we have an intervention here called closeness. And traditional behaviorism is, you're acting up, go to timeout. But for us, it's if you're acting up, you're actually trying your best, and therefore there must be something going on with you. So actually come and be close to me for a while. And most of the time our students don't like it. They actually don't like to be close, they fight it. But when students are really kind of understanding and exercising some trust to self, they start to want closeness. And so they'll say, hey, can I be close to you for a while? I had a tough session. Or can I be close to you today because, I'm having a disagreement with my peer and I need somebody to talk to. That's when we know that they're getting this. It's not just about regulation, but it's also about connection and boy, I like relationships and this is good for me. So that's trust to self, and this is where the other programs that we've used some of this language from stop. But for us, because they're teenagers, we really feel like the ultimate goal for all of our students is something that we call interdependence, having healthy, reciprocal relationships. And so that's represented by the tree, because much like the tree, it can't grow without the sun or the earth or water, but the tree gives back, it gives us oxygen. And that's what we want from our students, to know that they've taken a lot in their life. Up to this point of coming to Calo, they usually are used to taking in friendships and in their parent relationships. But to be successful, they have to learn how to give. And much like the tree, if they don't give, they actually don't have good relationships with the environment. And that's what we want our students to learn is, boy, I actually like taking at times, but I really like giving because it gives me some meaning. And so for us, that really is the goal. So even though our approach to every single student is unique and individualized, we can say that our goal for every student, though, is also interdependence, because you can't be successful unless you know how to give and take in relationships. How do you get along with a boss unless you can read him or her? How do you get along with a teacher unless you can read her body language? How do you get along with your parents if you actually don't know how to give and take? And so for us, even though parents will say, well, my ultimate goal is for my child to come home. My ultimate goal is for my child to get married and have a family, or to get a good job. Those are all great things, and we want those things too, but they can only happen if there's true interdependence, because you can't be successful unless you have that. You can't have a meaningful relationship unless you have it. So that is our goal. So everything that we do here at Calo really does stem from this goal of interdependence. We have therapeutic groups about it. We have treatment team summaries and treatment plans really driven by this goal of interdependence. And that's why we've specialized in our certain population, because we really feel like this is what they need.